The WinMax is a dual-stage nitrous controller that features RPM activation, RPM deactivation, TPS activation, a gear lockout feature, and 2 timing retards, one for each stage. This controller has a built-in shift light, real-time display, LCD screen, and backlight, stage 1 and stage 2 LEDs, and it's made right here in the USA. We have packaged the WinMax so that our dealers can put this on their shelf and have a nice displayed product. Open this thing up. The controller comes in bubble wrap package. Alright, that way it's nice and protected. Comes with very detailed instructions. Our instructions are designed so that it's easy to follow. Okay, so if you go through here, you'll see it's very detailed, has a nice schematic. It covers every single step along the way of programming this controller. Covers every feature. Our goal with the instructions on this thing was to make sure that if you sit down and follow this, you could actually skim read it for you guys that don't read instructions like you should and understand how this controller works. And as you look in here, you can see each step is documented. The beautiful thing of this, when we get to the back, this area will continue to grow. We tell you where to get tack signal and TPS signal in each car. All right, so our main goal, not only to keep the instructions easy to navigate and understand, but our main goal with this controller was after you get this controller initially set up and you're out playing around, we want you to be able to navigate through this controller and make any changes you need without the instructions with you. That way, if you forgot them, you're okay. I think you'll find that we hit a home run on this. All right, to enter program mode, we're going to hold all 3 buttons down at the same time. And you'll see all the LEDs start flashing. All right, and it told you it's entering program mode. So the first option that pops up is menu config, and we're going to end up selecting this, but I'm going to toggle through the main screen just to kind of show you the navigation. So above menu config, if we hit the plus button here, we go to stage 1, stage 2, menu TPS, menu RPM, menu display, and then back to exit. Okay, so we're going to start with menu config, and we're going to press select to go into that. And it's asking us right now, what mode do we want this this unit to work in? Do we just want it to activate off of RPM? Do we want it to just activate off of TPS? Or do we want it to activate on both? If you're using this for nitrous, you need to select both, okay? If you just did RPM and you made a pass and was in decel and coming back down the access road, the nitrous is still going to be spraying while the throttle body blade is closed. And generally that's going to cause a pretty bad nitrous backfire. So don't do just RPM for nitrous. If you're using it for triggering some other type of device, you could do that. Now TPS, the way it's going to do is whenever it's at wide open throttle, it's going to spray no matter the RPM. We don't like suggesting that because if the car bogs or you don't have enough engine speed built up, you could also have a backfire, okay? So we're going to choose RPM TPS in this case. All right, so now we're back to menu config. So we picked the feature of how we want this controller programmed around. So we're going to go into stage 1. We're going to hit select. We can choose, do we want stage 1 to work or not? Let's say you got 2 stages on the car and you just want to turn stage 1 off. You could choose to do that right here. Hit no, and you're done. All right, but we're going to turn it on. So we're going to say yes. So right now it's currently set RPM 2600. I like to suggest to our customers not to spray under 3000. We want to make sure we have enough engine RPM built up, make sure the car doesn't bog, doesn't load the motor. So we're going to say, you know what, activate at 3000 RPMs. If you wanted to, you could go higher than that, 3500, 4000, whatever you want to do. It's adjustable. So we're going to say activate at 3000. And let's say we're shifting at 6000 and our rev limiter is at 6,500. Well, I'm going to set it at where I'm shifting. I always like to set it about 300 RPMs below the rev limiter. So I'm going to say we're shutting it off at 6. All right, so now it says set on TPS. What this is this is the percentage of what you want the TPS to read. So 99% would basically mean, you know what, the foot pedal's to the floor. Sometimes I like to give myself a little bit of a window there in case whenever I save the TPS voltage, which you'll see later on, and I went all the way to the floor. Sometimes you may have a hard time, floor mat or something like that, carpet. So sometimes let's just say 95%. So I'll save it there. And you can save it at 99%. Don't go too low because it would activate at half throttle if you went, or below that. So we're going to say set. Ignition enable. So what this is this is for your outputs to timing retards. And you can turn it on or off right here. If you're not going to use it, turn it off. If you're triggering a timing retard, turn it on. Okay, so right now it's preset as no gear lockouts. Now lockout features are cool because this unit right here will not progressively bring the nitrous in, but for you street guys that don't want to spray in first, second, or third gear, we give you the option to set this controller not to spray in first, second, or third gear. And you can pick how many you want, 1, 2, or 3. So let's just say we don't want it to spray in first gear. So I'm going to hit select. And then I'm going to give it a shift RPM. Well, we already decided it was shifting at 6,000, so we're going to leave it there. We're going to say, hey, we're shifting at 6,000 RPMs. I want you to count that as my max RPM. All right, and we're going to hit it, and it's going to say, what's your RPM drop? Well, let's say it's an automatic, and it drops 500 RPMs every time it shifts, right? So we're going to come over here, and we're going to say, I want you to see, I'm going to say a 400 RPM drop. All right, I want you to see 400 RPM drop from whenever I tag 6,000 and it drops 400 RPMs. I want you to count that as a gear shift. All right, so now what happens is whenever the nitrous system engages, you turn it on and you floor the car, it's going to have to hit 6,000 RPMs. And then whenever it shifts, it's going to have to drop 400 RPMs for it to know that was a shift. And it's good. So then the controller is going to be told by RPM, hey, I'm in second gear. It's time to start spraying. Okay. So, all right. So that's all of our stage 1 settings. We've set the RPM. We've set ignition output for triggering timing retard, and we've set our gear lockout feature. Stage 2 works exactly the same way. If you're going to activate stage 2, go through the same steps we just went through. And let's say you don't have a stage 2, let's just turn it off. Okay. So turn it off. And you don't have to set any of that stuff if you turn it off. Get back out of it. All right. So now menu TPS. So what we're going to do is at this point, you're going to choose, do you have a wide open throttle switch, like a micro switch, maybe a push button, or do you have a sensor, a late model EFI card, and you're using throttle position sensor? You will choose right here. If you click switch, like that right there, you're done. Okay. And it goes back and you can toggle back through the main menu. Let's say you don't have a switch and you have a sensor. So you're hooked to the throttle position sensor. We're going to hit select. So now at this point, your car should be keyed on. Some cars have to be running for it to read this. So let's say the key is on, the run position, and the car's saying this is going to be your idle voltage. Okay. It's going to read that and you're going to hit select. Okay. Now it's going to ask you wide open throttle voltage. It's going to be reading this, okay? So it's going to see the car. So you're going to take the throttle pedal and you're going to floor it all the way to the floor. And you're going to save that voltage. All right? It's going to take you back to the main screen. So now you've told it when you're not in throttle and when you're in throttle. All right? So now we're going to go to RPM menu. I'm going to click on that. It wants to know how many cylinders. So let's say it's a LS1 V8. We're going to tell it it's got 8 cylinders. Ignition type distributor, colon plug, or waste spark. All right. Well, LS1's colon plug. We're going to tell it's colon plug. Now, shift RPM. Shift RPM is for your shift light. It's in this same config here. And we're going to tell it, remember we're shifting at 6,000 RPMs. We want the shift light to turn on at 6,000 RPMs. All right, now menu RPM. We just went through that. So let's go back to menu display, right? So menu display is going to be all the contrast for everything. So contrast right here, if you look at this main LED backlit screen, I'm sorry, the contrast of the letters, see how they go away versus come back? You can make how defined that is. Come back over here. This is your backlight, so this is the backlight of the screen. And make it brighter or dimmer, okay? It's adjustable from 0 to 20, all right? All right, shift light. This is that LED right there. Watch this. I can make it go away to where it's not very bright at all the way up to full brightness. Okay, so we'll come back over here and we'll go to stage lights. These are the stage 1 and stage 2 light, how bright it is. All right, watch this, 20. Come all the way back down to 0 and dim these lights. All right, the beautiful thing of this, and let's say you're using the shift light, mount this thing where the shift light can light up the cabin of the car. There you go, you got a built-in shift light. All right, menu display. That's what we just went through. And now we're done programming the controller. We'll click exit program. See how it tells you RPM, TPS. This would be showing the RPM on the car and the throttle position percentage here. All right, so one other thing to notice here is that the screen is showing an L, 1L. So that's telling you that we set first gear to have a lockout for 1 gear. And so whenever L pops up on your screen and you're wondering what the L is for, that's for your gear lockout feature. If you decide you want to make a change, all right, so you got it all programmed and you're at the racetrack and you want to change the RPM where it comes in, you can click on it. Here's what's awesome about this controller. You do not have to go through every menu. You can find just what you want to change and change just that and then go back and hit exit program. This is the easiest to navigate window switch that you will find on the market. We're proud of this thing and we hope you are too.